ChatGPT said, "Let me take you into a reality that's easy to forget when you're in your 20s." At that age, the skin seems invincible. It bounces back after a late night, recovers quickly from a breakout, and glows with the effortless vitality of youth. That resilience often creates the illusion that nothing can harm it. Sunscreen seems optional. Moisturizer can be skipped without much thought. Pollution, stress, hours in front of a computer screen, none of it seems to leave a permanent mark. And so a silent mistake forms, the belief that youth itself is a shield against damage. But the truth is that every day, beneath the surface, your skin is being written upon by the choices you make. Ultraviolet rays leave invisible scars in the form of DNA damage. Dehydration creates micro tears that will later appear as fine lines. Environmental toxins generate oxidative stress that slowly dulls the skin's natural glow. Just because you don't see the effects now doesn't mean they aren't happening. Think of it like the foundation of a house. When it's new, you can't see the cracks forming in the cement, but 10 or 20 years later, those cracks define the structure's strength. In the same way, the neglect of your 20s becomes the regret of your 40s. The skin has an extraordinary memory. It remembers every sunburn, every night you didn't wash off your makeup, every week you ignored hydration. It may forgive you in the moment, but it does not forget. And the psychological trap of this age is that the mirror reassures you daily that everything is fine. That reassurance breeds complacency. It encourages shortcuts. And yet, this is the exact moment when your skin needs you the most, because prevention is infinitely more powerful than correction. Here's where philosophy comes into play. If we think of the skin as simply a surface, then caring for it becomes a shallow exercise. But if we think of it as a living diary, recording the story of how we value ourselves, suddenly it takes on deeper meaning. When you put on sunscreen at 22, you're not just blocking UV rays, you're making a decision about who you want to be at 42. When you hydrate your skin before rushing off to work, you're not simply applying lotion. You're practicing the art of self-respect. When you cleanse away the day's buildup, you're symbolically choosing renewal over stagnation. The mistake so many young women make is mistaking resilience for immunity. Resilience means your skin can recover now. Immunity would mean it never suffers damage at all, and that is simply not true. Damage accumulates quietly, patiently, waiting for the moment your skin's natural defenses begin to slow. That's when it all shows up at once. Wrinkles that seem to appear overnight, uneven tone that seems to have no cause, a dullness that no makeup can mask. The seeds were planted years earlier. I often tell people that prevention is not glamorous, but it is profound. It requires humility to care for something before it looks like it needs care. It demands foresight to invest in habits when the rewards are invisible in the present moment. And it requires self-love to honor your body, not just for how it looks now, but for how it will serve you in the decades to come. That's what makes this mistake so tragic, because it is born out of underestimating your own worth. If we reframe skincare as an act of long-term self-preservation rather than vanity, the shift in mindset can be life-changing. Every morning application of sunscreen becomes a message to your future self: I value you enough to protect you. Every glass of water you drink becomes a small shield against the dryness and inflammation that age accelerates. Every night you give yourself those few moments to cleanse away impurities is a reminder that your health matters even when no one else can see the effort. And let's be clear, this is not about fear. It is not about scaring young women into thinking their skin will collapse without discipline. It is about empowerment. It is about recognizing that the power is in your hands right now, in the smallest of daily rituals. To believe youth makes you invincible is to give that power away. To acknowledge that your choices matter, even in your 20s, is to step into responsibility with grace and wisdom. So I leave you with this thought: your skin does not just represent who you are today. It represents the story you are writing for tomorrow. When you look in the mirror at 25, you may see only youth. But when you look in the mirror at 45, you will see the sum of all the decisions you made in your 20s. Treat your skin not as though it is invincible, but as though it is precious. Because it is. And because you are. One of the most overlooked mistakes women in their 20s make with their skincare is the misuse, or more often, the overuse of products. This is an age marked by curiosity, experimentation, and the influence of marketing. Social media feeds are filled with trends, celebrity routines, and endless product launches that promise miracles in a bottle. It's easy to feel like more is better, more serums, more acids, more exfoliation. But skin, unlike fashion or makeup, is not something you can switch out when the trend shifts. It is living tissue. And like any living system, it thrives on balance, not overload. The temptation to chase every new product is understandable. You're in a decade of discovery, testing out identities, learning what feels right for you. That energy is beautiful, but when it comes to skin, excess can be damaging. Exfoliation strips away the protective barrier that keeps your skin hydrated and defended. Layering multiple actives without understanding how they interact can trigger sensitivity, redness, or breakouts that are far worse than the problem you were trying to fix. And constantly switching from one product to another doesn't give your skin the time it needs to adapt and show results. You end up in a cycle of frustration, mistaking your skin's distress for lack of efficacy, and then piling on even more products in response. The skin speaks a language of patience. Unlike makeup, where you see instant transformation, skincare works slowly, gently, building resilience over time. When you apply a moisturizer today, the true benefits unfold in weeks, not hours. When you use a serum, it often takes a full skin cycle, about 28 days, for the change to show. And when you disrupt that rhythm with impatience, you prevent the very progress you're seeking. The mistake here is not just in the products themselves, but in the mindset, the belief that faster is better, that results should be immediate, and that you can outsmart biology with shortcuts. There is a deeper psychological layer to this. In your 20s, you're defining yourself. There's pressure to present a flawless version of who you are to the world, and skincare becomes part of that identity. But if you strip away the marketing, the endless options, the obsession with perfection, you're left with a simple truth: your skin doesn't need every product. It needs the right product. It doesn't need excess. It needs consistency. And most of all, it needs respect. Think of your skin as a garden. If you bombard the soil with too many fertilizers, too many chemicals, the plants don't flourish. They weaken. But if you nourish the soil with balance, with what it can truly absorb, it thrives. The same is true with your skin. Less, chosen wisely, is more. This is where discipline enters the conversation. It takes discipline to say no to the 10th serum, the 3rd exfoliant, or the latest miracle cream. It takes wisdom to understand that your skin is not a laboratory for experiments, but a living organ that deserves thoughtful care. The real empowerment comes not from owning every product on the shelf, but from knowing which 3 or 4 products your skin genuinely needs and sticking to them with consistency. There's also something liberating about resisting the culture of excess. By simplifying your routine, you reclaim your time, your money, and your mental energy. You step out of the endless cycle of chasing perfection and instead step into a relationship with your skin built on trust. And when you give your skin that trust, by not overwhelming it, by giving it time to respond, you'll find it rewards you with clarity, resilience, and a glow that feels natural rather than forced. The danger of product misuse in your 20s is not just the irritation or breakouts it can cause in the short term. The real risk lies in weakening your skin's barrier long term, making it more vulnerable to aging sensitivity and chronic issues down the road. The very tools you thought would preserve your beauty become the triggers for its decline. That's why this mistake matters so much. It doesn't just rob you of results now, it robs you of strength later. So let me leave you with this thought. Simplicity is not laziness, it is wisdom. Balance is not boring, it is strength. When you resist the urge to overdo, you're not holding back. You're protecting, preserving, and honoring the very foundation of your beauty. In a world that constantly tells you to want more, the most radical, empowering choice you can make for your skin is to give it less but better. Another common mistake women in their 20s make with their skincare is neglecting sun protection. It often feels optional at this age. After all, your skin is resilient, quick to recover, and rarely shows the immediate damage that sun exposure brings. You may think of sunscreen as something only your mother or grandmother needs, a shield against wrinkles and spots that belong to the distant future. But this mindset is deceptive. The truth is ultraviolet rays are working silently every single day, etching lines, weakening collagen, and planting the seeds of aging long before you see the evidence. What you ignore in your 20s inevitably comes knocking in your 30s, 40s, and beyond. The danger here lies in invisibility. A sunburn shouts its damage loudly, but most UV harm is quiet, cumulative, and permanent. The tanning you might admire in the mirror today is actually your skin sounding the alarm, cells scrambling to defend themselves, melanin surging to absorb radiation. And while the glow may fade, the injury does not. It sits beneath the surface, slowly unraveling the strength of your skin. Collagen fibers stiffen, elasticity diminishes, pigmentation rises, and eventually the face staring back at you carries the imprint of choices made years earlier. There's also a profound psychological misstep here, the assumption that beauty is about what you see right now rather than what you're building for tomorrow. Skincare in your 20s should not just be about correcting breakouts or experimenting with new trends. It should also be about preserving what you already have. You're in the decade of your skin's prime, radiant, strong, naturally plump. Protecting that gift should be your priority because once it slips, it is far harder to rebuild than it is to maintain. Sunscreen, then, isn't just a lotion. It's an investment in your future self. But many people resist it because sunscreen doesn't feel glamorous. It isn't marketed as the miracle in a jar. It doesn't promise instant glow or a transformation overnight. Instead, it's a quiet guardian, invisible in its effects, often underappreciated because it doesn't produce that immediate reward. And that's where philosophy comes in. The greatest acts of care in life are often invisible. Think of the choices you make for your health: skipping junk food, taking a brisk walk, going to bed earlier. None of them give you instant applause, but over time they shape the trajectory of your life. Sunscreen belongs in that category. It represents wisdom, restraint, and the maturity to think long term rather than chase only the pleasures of the present. Now, there's also the emotional piece to consider. For many women in their 20s, time is scarce, mornings are rushed, and skincare routines already feel overwhelming. Adding sunscreen can feel like one more task in a busy schedule. But here's the truth: it doesn't have to be complicated. Choosing a lightweight formula, something that blends seamlessly, makes this act of protection effortless. The problem is not the sunscreen itself, but the way we perceive it. When you shift your mindset from sunscreen as a chore to sunscreen as an act of self-respect, the decision transforms. It becomes less about obligation and more about empowerment, about honoring the body and skin you've been given. And let's also acknowledge the cultural influence. Social media often glorifies glowing serums and quick fix treatments, but rarely celebrates prevention. Prevention doesn't photograph well. It doesn't sell in the same flashy way. But the irony is that prevention is the very foundation of lasting beauty. Without it, every serum and treatment you use later is fighting an uphill battle. Science supports this truth unequivocally. Studies show that up to 80% of visible aging is driven not by time itself, but by sun exposure. That means wrinkles, sagging, and discoloration are not inevitable outcomes of age. They're largely preventable consequences of daily habits. Imagine the power of that knowledge. Imagine realizing that something as simple as applying sunscreen every morning could determine whether your skin at 40 looks 40 or whether it carries the wear of someone much older. What's really at stake here is not just appearance, but confidence. Skin that feels strong, even toned, and cared for allows you to meet the world without hesitation. Protecting that confidence begins with prevention. And while it may feel unnecessary in your 20s, it's precisely the decade when sunscreen matters most because you're laying the groundwork for decades ahead. So I want you to carry this reflection with you. Every time you skip sunscreen, you're making a choice, one that favors the fleeting comfort of now over the enduring gift of tomorrow. And every time you apply it, you're sending a different message that your future self matters, that you are willing to invest in her, even if no one applauds you today. That is the wisdom we often miss in our 20s, but it's the wisdom that can change everything. Protection is not weakness, it is power. And sunscreen, though humble and unglamorous, is the single most powerful skincare tool you can embrace. Take that seriously, because the face you save tomorrow will be your own. Another mistake many women in their 20s fall into is the overuse of harsh products. This comes from a natural but misguided impulse. If a little is good, more must be better. The skincare industry fuels this with promises of faster results, stronger acids, deeper peels, more potent treatments. The shelves are lined with exfoliants, toners, scrubs, and serums that seem to whisper that your skin is never clean enough, never smooth enough, never bright enough. And so, in the rush to perfect, young women often strip away the very defenses that keep their skin healthy. Here's the irony. Skin is not a passive canvas to be endlessly scrubbed and resurfaced. It is a living organ, a barrier designed with intelligence far beyond what most products can replicate. It has its own ecosystem, a balance of oils, bacteria, and protective layers that work together to keep you safe. When you bombard it with harsh cleansers, high concentrations of acids, or aggressive scrubbing, you don't just remove dirt or dead cells. You compromise its ability to protect itself. The result is often redness, sensitivity, breakouts, and premature aging, the very issues you were trying to avoid. This mistake isn't just physical, it's psychological. It stems from impatience and from a culture that equates more effort with better results. We live in an age of instant gratification. You can order food in minutes, stream an entire series in one night, or get same-day delivery for almost anything. That expectation spills into skincare. Women want the glow now, the smoothness now, the transformation now. But skin doesn't work on those terms. True skin health is about rhythm cycles and gentle consistency. It responds not to force, but to respect. Think of it like exercise. If you push your body beyond its limit every day, lifting heavy without rest, you don't grow stronger, you break down. Muscles need recovery. Balance is what creates resilience. The same applies to your skin. Over-exfoliating or over-treating is like running a marathon every morning. It exhausts your cells, weakens your barrier, and leaves you vulnerable. What's fascinating is how this mistake connects to something much deeper, the human struggle between control and surrender. Many women in their 20s feel pressure to control their appearance, to polish every flaw, to prove they are in command of how they present themselves to the world. Skincare becomes a battlefield with harsh products as weapons, but real confidence doesn't come from waging war against your skin. It comes from understanding and cooperating with it. It's an act of surrender, of trusting your body's wisdom enough to stop fighting and start supporting. Science confirms this philosophy. Studies show that the skin barrier, made of lipids, proteins, and natural moisturizers, is essential not only for keeping moisture in, but also for keeping harmful substances out. When that barrier is damaged by too many harsh products, inflammation rises, sensitivity increases, and aging accelerates. Ironically, the path to youthful. Radiant skin is not paved with aggression, but with protection, gentle cleansing, adequate hydration, and moderate exfoliation. Done wisely, preserve the skin's natural intelligence rather than undermine it. Now, there's a subtle but powerful shift that happens when you understand this. Instead of asking, how much more can I do for my skin? You begin to ask, what does my skin actually need from me? That question invites mindfulness. It turns skincare from a frantic pursuit into a dialogue, a relationship. You start noticing how your skin responds, respecting its signals, and choosing products not for their strength, but for their harmony with your biology. The women who learn this early are the ones who age gracefully, not because they use the strongest potions, but because they never weakened their foundation in the first place. They understood that resilience is built quietly through balance and patience, not through overexertion. And this isn't just about skincare. It's a metaphor for life in your 20s. There will always be pressure to push harder, do more, achieve faster. But sometimes the wisest choice is to pause, to nurture, to let growth happen in its own rhythm. The same restraint that protects your skin will also protect your spirit. So here is the reflection I want to leave you with. Every time you reach for a harsh product, ask yourself, am I trying to heal my skin or am I trying to control it? Because the answer will reveal something deeper about how you relate to yourself. True beauty doesn't come from force. It comes from partnership with your skin, with your body, and with time itself. Treat your skin as an ally, not an enemy, because when you respect its intelligence, it will reward you with the kind of beauty that lasts far beyond your 20s.